Welcome back, Billiken fans. I'm Zach Miller. Peter Hale's right here with me, and this is the Midtown Madness podcast. Pete, what a week. Yesterday I was probably the most fun I've had on Twitter during a Billiken basketball game. And I want to do themes now for every game. Like I was thinking for the Arch Baron Cup, it's road and ground and water travel only. So, we only tweet out gifs of trucks and or trains and boats.
I like that. I like that. See, I told you, I texted you this earlier. Like, that was a lot of fun. For those who aren't sure what we're talking about yet, we basically tweeted everything during the Duquesne game yesterday in WWE GIF or GIF, whatever your preference is, format, and I had a lot of fun with it. But I told Zach, we run the risk of that not being so fun if we blow a big lead or something like that. Like there's definitely a downside to it. So in a game that was kind of decided, pretty much from the start, it was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah, no. And the reasoning being, I attended the Royal Rumble here in St. Louis at the Edward Jones, whatever it's called now. I have no idea. St. Louis, downtown St. Louis was an absolute mob show. When I was in the hotel afterwards, we got a hotel room because my cousin he lives out in O'Fallon, St. Charles. So not worth it to Uber, $50-$100 Uber. But we got back to the hotel and the line to use the elevator looked like Chick-fil-A at 6 p.m. It was crazy. I haven't seen crowds downtown like that in a long time since maybe I've at least 2 years, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then looking back, before that, Cardinals 2011 was the World Series, and I guess 2019 would have been the Stanley Cup final.
Right.
Not the Stanley Cup final. The Stanley Cup parade was probably the last time I saw a crowd like that in St. Louis. Awesome to see, though. Good for the city. And hopefully good for the city will be a San Francisco 49ers win here in the next, 20 minutes or so. But let's get into why we actually do this show, and that's for Billiken Athletics. And we have a ton to go through. What a fun week. 2 blowout wins. Just a nice, a couple of nice games to kick back and relax and watch them.
Yeah, like I said before, with Duquesne, and it was true of George Washington too. There was never really any time during either of these games where I doubted that we would win. Maybe a couple times early in Duquesne where we didn't quite pull away yet. They'd hit a 3 and keep it within a couple baskets, but eventually, especially late in the first half, that one started to get away from them, and then the second half left it pretty decisive. But yeah, it's always a relief when we've had so many ups and downs this year to have a week where you have back-to-back just comfortable wins and can kind of sit back and have some fun watching them.
Yeah, we'll start out with the George Washington game. That was Wednesday, January 26th. I've been impressed with the crowds at the games. They've really kind of it's been really they've been above average, I think. The numbers maybe aren't there, but I felt like people have showed up and the arena has looked pretty full. This one was an 80-67 win Wednesday, January 29th. And this was a fun game. There were 3 obvious standouts in this one, Pete.
Yeah, it was all about Collins, Jimerson, and Okoro in this game. Outside of those 3, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. I think we got some good minutes out of guys like Nesbitt and Linson and Thatch. But really those 3 were just, they did everything for us. Collins, with 12 assists and 2 turnovers, now has the all-time assist record at SLU. Jimerson has another big scoring game with 28, and then Okoro, quiet compared to the other 2, as quiet as you can be for a game where you score 22 and 11.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's Okoro just kind of, the amazing thing about Okoro is he is what, he's not Hassan French yet. And I don't know if he ever will be. I think, well, he's a great center. Let's not be wrong. Let's not be, crazy. He's very, very good, but he's not as dominant as Hassan was. But the best part about him is he makes his free throws. And
Yeah.
even if he's having a tough night, from the field, he's still going to contribute when he gets to the line. Whereas if Hassan was having an off night, it was an off night across the board.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think you can't, a guy like French, there were times where defenses just really figured him out. I remember particular games at like Davidson, where they would double or triple him every time he touched the ball in the paint and just collapse on him and get him to either cough it up or put him on the free throw line, just completely take him out of his game. There was a couple stretches throughout French's career where the teams kind of had him figured out and could do that. And the thing about Okoro is he's not perfect and has his ups and downs and has parts of his game he certainly needs to work on. But you're right. You can't just plan for him like that. You can't just hack him and put him on the line. He goes 4 for 4 in this game. It just, what is he shooting for this season now? Like 76%. You cannot, you just can't cheat, kind of cheat that way. I know it's not cheating to say, but you just got to kind of play him straight up. And he has these games like this where he just, he gets it done.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be said that, Martin Linson has done a fantastic job since coming back, slowly working his way back up to minutes. You can tell he's definitely lumbering and in pain, but he gives you a good 16 minutes in this one. Goes 1 of 3 from the field, 2 of 2 from the line, grabs 5 boards. He only has 2 fouls. So solid minutes from a guy who's working his way back into the rotation from a tough injury.
Yeah, and almost certainly playing under a minute restriction as well. I don't know when and if that's going to, or I mean, I'm sure it will be, but I don't know when that will be lifted all the way. At Duquesne, he wound up playing a little bit more. He played, well, no, sorry, he didn't play as much. He played 10 minutes in that one. So I guess that was a game where they kind of thought like, well, we don't necessarily need to lean on him as much. But anyway, you could tell he's not 100%. But regardless, every game he has looked a little bit better in terms of his movement, in terms of what he's willing to do off and on the ball. And I think his minutes have been really good since he came back. And still going to have to rediscover his form. But yeah, he's been really good. I like the minutes he's given us for sure.
I want to talk a little bit about, speaking of minutes restrictions, Lassina Traore. After getting a lot of minutes and doing a dance, he gets garbage time only in this one, 3 minutes. Are we calling it a punishment?
I don't think so. I mean, oh boy, I don't know. Maybe. I just don't think we necessarily needed him. I mean, it's a game where Okoro plays 24 really good minutes. It's a game that was never really in question. So between Okoro and Linson's minutes, neither of them got in foul trouble. It's just not a game where you necessarily needed him. So it's hard to say it's a punishment, because if this were a close one, or if one or both of those guys, Linson and Okoro, had been in foul trouble, we'd probably have a better idea. But I don't think he's going to sit him just for that. He probably made him run in practice or something.
I think Jimerson, man, I just want to get back to him because the guy is, well, first of all, have we even discussed Collins?
I mean, we mentioned it very briefly.
Okay,
but yeah, so, we definitely got to spend time on
we have to start with Yuri Collins, because it's his 3rd year in a Billiken uniform, and he has broken an all-time record in 3 years.
It's incredible, you know, and I kind of tweeted about this the other night a little bit because I was there when Josh Fisher was there. We overlapped by a few years, and I remember when he broke that all-time assist record, and man, you know, his family had kind of relocated to St. Louis for him to play out his career there. You know, his family, his fiance. It was just so exciting for them. Like I'll never forget that night. Like just you know, our sports information director at the time, Doug McElhaga, ran over and was like, he got it, you know, it's official. And you could see he confirmed it with his family who sat behind the bench. And it was just a really special night. And then, of course, not long after the game at all, SLU basketball retweets a video from Josh Fisher himself. You know, who like I told you, he's kind of a soft-spoken guy. So he it was just kind of like a little 20-30 second deal, but he congratulated Yuri on the record. And I thought that was pretty cool. You know, it's a record he held for what 17 years or so now. But yeah, to see that Yuri did it in how many fewer games was that? I mean, like he's played like almost
it's gonna be astronomical. The record will be astronomical.
Yeah. So here it is. Josh Fisher, 436 assists in 123 games and over 3,300 minutes. Yuri got to that in 69 games.
Nice.
And just over 2,000 minutes. So he did it in significantly less minutes and games than Fisher did. And it's just incredible to see that kind of production out of him. And like I told you before, like if he plays out all of his eligibility at SLU with this COVID bonus year, he's going to put up a number for assists that maybe no one will ever touch in program history. Stays healthy, stays at SLU. It's hard to believe that anyone would come along and break whatever number he's going to put up.
I know I texted you and I had a laugh at Fisher's video because Josh Fisher's like, hey, it's Josh Fisher. I played at SLU yeah, Josh, we know who you are. Dwayne Wade knows who you are.
That's right, man. Yeah, I tweeted that out too. The worst college games of Dwayne Wade's career came against Josh Fisher. That he was
I hold that fact in my back pocket.
Oh, it's
at all times. That sits in my wallet whenever I need it. Whenever Dwayne Wade's name comes up, that thing comes out of my pocket like a grandpa's photo of his grandchildren. I bring that up.
I should have dug this up because I know back at the time when Wade was just, you know, running the NBA back in like the late aughts and he was in Miami and at the peak of his career, the Miami Herald writer dug this up about Josh Fisher and was like, some team should sign Fisher because here's the one guy who knows how to guard Wade who can stop him. And I should have dug up that article and retweeted that. Maybe we'll still do that. But I think Fisher, he was such a nice guy. I got to know him pretty well when he was here and, really liked him a lot. And, it could not be a nicer guy. But yeah, not always the most comfortable on a mic or camera, though. He's kind of a shy dude.
This was a great game. Another outstanding game from Gibson Jimerson. He just continues to be an absolute star. I think he's the leading scorer per game in the A10. Did I hear that?
Yeah, he was as of the last time I checked. And the next time you talk, I'll pull that up and look at that. But yeah, he went 11 for 20 from the field. He had 6 of 11 from 3, which is huge, and we always talk about if he has the time and space, he's going to shoot threes. 6 of 11 is just, you can't ask for anything more than that. And then he had 20 at halftime. So this was a game that looked like, oh my God, like he had 31 in the game before. Who knows how many scores this game, but he only had 8 more in the second half, and that's fine. We didn't necessarily need him to score a lot more than that. And he was actually 6 of 9 until 2 late threes he took on the same possession. That were, I don't know if you call them heat check, but they weren't as
he pulled out the Steph Curry range in this one.
Yeah, he did. Oh yeah. He made one from almost out of bounds in the first half. But yeah, he got it going early and not just from 3. He loves that backdoor cut, and Collins always kind of knows when to find him. And then he had the one in the breakaway dunk in the first half. That's the other thing he does that's so smart. And something we really haven't talked about in his game is, he's not a big rebounder, but as soon as we get that rebound, he is flying down the left or right flank. And Collins, in this case, rewarded him with just a bomb of a pass. Jimerson dunks and hangs on the rim about as long as you can before you get a tee. So that was just beautiful, man. What a game. The other play that really stood out with me to me on this one is, I don't remember who it was, if it was Thatch or Nesbitt or somebody got stopped at the rim, missed a layup, and then Jimerson wound up with it, got blocked, got the ball back, and just kind of willed it in. It was like a little kind of teardrop finish. So the thing that we keep saying is it's so many aspects to his game that we really haven't seen before. All the cuts, all the scoring at the rim, scoring in transition, and then this one now, really just finishing a play with such willpower. It was just an incredible all-around scoring performance to watch.
Yeah, one of my favorite things he does is the way he does draw contact and then finishes through that contact.
Yeah. He's got to be I know a lot of people are saying this. He's got to be a little bit better about selling fouls, but I think now, if you're the guy who comes back next season, who led the conference in scoring last year, you start to kind of get that star credit that referees have too. So I think that's going to happen.
And I can't wait to talk about selling fouls in the next game.
Yeah,
maybe I wish we had. It's the clip is on par with Cody Ellis flopping against Draymond Green in the NCAA tournament out at the top of the key. And we'll get to that. Any areas of concern in this one? We love the good, and we love talking about when we love doing this podcast when they win, no doubt. But there are times where it's difficult to do it when they do lose, and thank God they didn't. But there were some areas of concern in this one.
Yeah, I mean, so this was one where we didn't get any 3-point production outside of Jimerson, and that's kind of the second game in a row that happened. And these are bad defenses we're playing too. UMass and George Washington. These are not top of the conference teams. If that happens against a team like Dayton and then Davidson back to back or something like that, or VCU, it's a little more understandable. But these are the worst defenses we're going to see. So you wonder, okay, well, when we play a better defense like the ones I just mentioned, who are going to do a better job of taking away the 3-point line for Jimerson, can we rely on other guys? That's something that's kind of going to be there. I always hate to see when you're beating a team by double digits at halftime and then they match your second half points. The second half was 42-42. And there were a lot of times where we just kind of looked like, a little lazy on transition defense. You also had James Bishop on their team, who kind of heated up in the second half and scored 30. Not very meaningful points, but he's definitely a player you gotta check. And then Hargrove's slump continues. This is the one game though where everybody has slumps, but I thought his body language looked a little off in this game, and I don't know if you saw that too. But
I know he looks a little different. I think his body has changed a little bit. I don't know if it's for the better. So I mean, I don't know if that's the stress of being in, kind of a tough time.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on off the court, if anything. I know that I would appreciate, maybe family members staying off Twitter. I think that's always a good policy to not tweet. If you're a family member, we've seen it before. I think we saw it with Austin McBroom's dad probably got into it a little bit. I think it was what was the Tanner Lancona?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Lancona's dad got into it a little bit, but I mean, Lancona was a scrub.
I mean, we've had
really
a few players over the years who have gotten into that. I really like Hargrove's parents.
Absolutely, Hargrove's
super nice awesome people.
Oh, great people.
When things are going well, they're all about the positive reinforcement on Twitter, and they pop up on our feed all the time. encouraging the other players. But definitely his dad has tweeted some stuff lately where he seems a little frustrated and seems like, he thinks TJ's not getting enough second chances. He's getting getting a quick yank if he makes a mistake, that kind of stuff. And we can't tell anybody what to do, but it's
Right.
certainly, it does not help the situation. And I just want people to kind of stay positive and know that one of the things that I had in a text conversation I had with somebody else about this, you see guys like Williams and Hargrove and a couple others who don't seem to have a long leash if they make a mistake or miss an assignment on the floor. People think like, oh, well, why does that happen to them and not somebody else? And the number one thing I say is that the game is only one fraction of how much time these coaches and players spend together. That mistake you're seeing in the game is likely the result of something that's not getting through in practice, in film, or wherever else. It's not just that turnover. It's the fact that turnover is the culmination of a lot of other things. So I want people to kind of keep that in mind. And I don't think, human nature is what it is, but I don't think that we have a coaching staff that's going to play favorites or anything like that. So he's gonna get out of whatever is going on and just kind of keep the faith. And I hope he gets out of it sooner than later.
Yeah, and we saw some good stuff from him in the next game too, and we'll get into it. Usually when we talk about officiating, we are not pleased with them, and there was a lot of talk about officiating in the negative during the Duquesne game. On Billikens.com specifically. I was obviously watching on my phone, so I didn't really get a lot of that. I was kind of watching it while drinking quite a bit and I wasn't analyzing it as I normally would. But this one, there was an interesting little side note with their officiating.
Yeah, there was. And, like I said, this is, or like you said, normally if you don't talk about officiating, you don't notice it. It's because they've done a good job, right? So I think that was kind of the case in this game. I don't really have a comment on the officiating other than to say, right before the game started, I noticed there was a female ref on the floor, and Chris May said later, if I heard him correctly, this is the first time we've ever had a female referee for a men's basketball home game at SLU. Her name was Amy Bonner. And I don't know if we'll see this crew again this season or what, but I kind of thought that was an interesting tidbit and something that, I noticed right before tip off and then was like, huh. And I tried to rack my brain for another time and couldn't think of it. And if I heard May correctly, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's a first at SLU, and that's pretty interesting. And I'm thankfully the crew had a good game, and
she wasn't taking any of Jamie and Christian's shit though. Like he was getting in the ref's ears, and
he's got a really dramatic look too.
Yes. He's also really bad at end of half, end of game situations. I don't know if you saw today's.
Yeah.
I think it was today's debacle. It was a nightmare. I mean, I just don't like that dude's not doing well.
I don't know why it worked so well at Siena and not George Washington, but he really does seem to overthink things. I think it wasn't it Chapley telling us he's never seen somebody with like more sets drawn out on whiteboards, and he throws a lot at his players. It's a really complicated system he's got, and I don't get it at all.
That's weird. I feel like Rick Majerus had the right type of complicated. Jamie and Christian has the wrong type of complicated.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Duquesne. As I said, I watched this sitting at the bar at the Midwestern downtown. Shout out. They have some great chicken tenders and fries, regardless of the alcohol intake. This was a fun one after about the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was. And like I said, it took us a little while to really put it away in the second half, but it didn't take too long to kind of know that we were going to win this one. Duquesne, I guess I just don't understand this team. I think one of the comments I made is just that they actually have some decent size and some decent talent and athleticism. And I look at all the pieces they have and go, like, there are some good players on that team, but man, they have no identity as a collective whatsoever.
They have a lot of terrible continuity too, year to year. I mean,
Yeah.
constantly people in and out. I mean, worse than like their guard situation with transfers has been worse than Fordham at times.
Yeah. And we mentioned that on an earlier show this season is like, how many times have we seen transfers out there who are guys who are like going to be the number 1, 2, or 3 guy the next season? You're like, why are you transferring out now? Like this, and they're not always going to like, it's not because like UCLA or Duke or something wants them. It's they're either making like horizontal moves or whatever. I don't really
It feels like a
understand.
damn brat thing. I mean,
Yeah, maybe.
it's like, I mean, he was, he's famous for coaching LeBron, and what else? I mean, that's what I don't really understand about, I guess, about Dan Brott. But no, this game was a blast. The Billikens played well. They really did. They shot the ball well. Hargrove was so damn close to breaking that 0 streak.
Yeah.
It really was a bummer. I mean, it was early in the game and it rattled. It's the only one he took and it rattled in and out.
Oh, he was right there.
Yeah. He got only 16 minutes in this one, which is not something we're accustomed to seeing out of him.
No, and the only he was 1 for 6 from the field, which I didn't realize he had taken that many shots. But the one he finished was a really nice alley-oop from Collins, really emphatic, and one of those that you hope shakes off some rust or whatever is going on. But yeah, I mean, it didn't feel like 1 for 6. I thought he would be 1 for 3 or 4 in this one. And that 3-pointer, for the first time in a while, I thought, oh, that's good, but it just happened to rattle out. So only 16 minutes in this game, but he looked incrementally better than he has recently, which is promising. And as you said, the 3-point shooting was better in this game.
It's kind of a good spot for this team that had been slumping across the board, other than Jimerson, to play one of the worst 3-point defending teams in the league.
We were about 50% from the 3-point line for more than half of the game. And then we wound up only being 8 of 24, it doesn't sound great. But the thing that's promising here is we had 5 different guys hit threes in this game. Mm-hmm. And Jimerson was only 2 of 8. So what we asked in the previous game was, when the 3-point line gets taken away from him, when he's got one of these guys who's just tugging on his jersey all night and doesn't let him free, where's our 3-point production going to come from? And in this game, you saw DeAndre Jones hit a couple, Rashad Williams hit a couple, Collins and Thatch each hit one. So, Nesbitt goes over 2, Hargroves goes 0-1, and those are 2 guys you want to see do a little better from the 3-point line. But, small sample size, I'm not too worried about it.
Rashad Williams was kind of a lightning rod of talk this week, especially on the message boards. And people weren't happy with, him missing threes most of the season, him taking an exorbitant amount of threes in some people's opinion. But like both these games were out of reach. I don't care.
No. And like, I don't know how many times I have to say it, either there or on Twitter or here. All you need to do is Google Rashad Williams, look at his game log for what he's done in his career, or even just his stat line. This is what he does. He's a volume 3-point shooter, we've been saying all along, he's not a guy who comes in for 5 minutes, hits 2 threes and has done his job. Like, you leave him in for a while and you let him heat up. He's got a quick release. He's got unlimited range, and he scores in bunches. There are games, like when you look at his time at Oakland or Cleveland State or whatever, he would go 1 of 7, 1 of 6, 0 of 4. And then the next night he'd go like 8 of 12, he can really get cooking from 3. You just got to give him a little more run. And what it feels like lately is Ford is kind of creeping up his minutes a little bit at a time, because I think he realizes exactly what he brings to the table.
And he's going to need, I mean, he can be that Dion Wiley, right? Right. The comparison is not really apt for minutes, because Dion Wiley was getting, like I said, on board 15, 19 minutes a game. Rashad Williams is getting about 9. So he's not getting the time and the attempts that Dion Wiley was getting the chance. And I think it's important in these games that do happen to be blowouts to get our, guys that aren't oft used shots up and game activity. Cause who knows what's going to happen in an A10 semifinal or A10 final. Whether Jimerson's going to be knocked around all game, and we're going to need somebody to step up and shoot threes. And if Rashad Williams is coming in cold and hasn't strapped up the shoes all season, what's the point?
That's exactly right. And the A10 tournament is the perfect example because like we've got a stretch right now of fairly easy games. UMass twice. Of course, we blew the first one. George Washington. Like we've got a lot of teams in a row that we can kind of that are definite games that we should win. Right. That's not going to happen in the A10 tournament. If you're lucky, you get 2 of those. You're probably only going to get 1. And we're not going to get 3 or 4 games in a row in the A10 tournament where Jimerson is going to get 10 looks from 3. He's going to have a tougher assignment on certain nights. So that's the perfect example. You've either got 3 or 4 games in a row and it's not going to be UMass twice, George Washington, George Mason, and Fordham. It's just not going to be that. So you do have to sort of extract the value where you can out of these other pieces.
Yeah. Anything in this one that you didn't like? There wasn't much to really get in on. The 1-3-1 gave up looks, but that's kind of the idea. But you're rushing the team. You're trying to get them out of their comfort zone. It's kind of how I'm trying to think who beat us by we couldn't even get into our offense. I'm trying to think recently. I just remember they would, as soon as Yuri would would cross the timeline, it was, trapping. And, but that's kind of the idea is you're giving up open looks, but you don't want them in rhythm. And that's what the 1-3-1 is designed to do. I feel like and this is just a product of me watching the game closely, is I see 2 things way too much. Long rebounds over players in decent rebounding position, and opponents making threes with a hand in our face. Am I going crazy, or is that a thing that happens just way too often?
I think you're right. And I haven't really figured out the long rebound thing this year, but we do have a lot more of them than we used to. And I have yet to really figure out what that is. And you see Collins' rebounding numbers are way up as a result of that. Collins and even Jones is a pretty good rebounder because they kind of tend to scoop up those long ones. But again, when you give up long rebounds, they don't always go your way. I think Collins and Jones might also have a little bit to do with that second point. Opponents making a lot of threes when they're kind of hand in your face, well guarded. We do give up some size, in a lot of these matchups because we are pretty small at the guard position outside of Nesbitt and Jimerson. Other than because, we thought Perkins was going to be playing a lot more. And instead we've got guys like Williams, Jones contributing more minutes than maybe we were counting on. So we do give up size there. I think Jimerson's a guy who probably still has some more to learn on the defensive end in terms of closing out, in terms of, switching more quickly or hedging where he needs to. But, I guess that'll come in time. He's only a freshman, right?
Yeah. I will say one more note on Hargrove. I think he had 2, I felt like it was 2 possessions in 4 that he got burnt for a 3 in his face. And I think that was really kind of that was it. It felt like it was kind of like, man, if you're not going to guard that 3, time to ride the pine pony.
Yeah. And if there's anywhere that Ford is going to pull a guy, it's going to be defensive end. It's going to be what he perceives as either effort or just not having your head in the game on that end. I think that's going to be it. I don't want to let this one go completely without acknowledging another good game out of Yuri Collins, 10 assists here. And I put down that he flirted with a quad nickel. He was 1 steal short of that. He had 4 steals, and he was actually pretty close to a triple double. He had 7 rebounds And if he had a few more of those long rebounds that we talked about, he may have had one of those. I did look it up. Jimerson is leading the conference in scoring. He's 18.1 a game. Quisenberry from Fordham is second at 17.7. And then there's a bunch of guys kind of in the 15 and 16 range. So he is number one.
I thought, did Jimerson lose player of the week to Quisenberry this week?
Was it Quisenberry? I know he somebody else won it.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't even understand that.
31 and 28 isn't good enough. Yeah.
It's because
I know. I guess. Wait, am I off by one game? I might be off by one game. Yeah. Sorry, he had 12.
No, it was for like the last week.
So the last week he had 23 and 31. I can't remember what he scored before. I mean, Jesus. I know. Yeah.
Like I said before, officiating was a hot button topic on this one, and I couldn't really tell. What did you see in this one?
If the game's not really that close, I don't get too worked up about the officiating. Plus, I spent half the time during this game trying to find just the right WWE gift to drop in our Twitter feed. We had a pretty active Twitter feed, and thanks everybody for your patience. Hopefully too many people didn't mute us or block us during that performance, but we were having fun with that. But yeah, so I don't know. I may not have been the most detail oriented while watching this game. It sounds like neither of us were. No,
yeah. Also, big note to Carter Chapley and Brian Kunderman even for joining in on the fun. It was fun, man. It was just like, I don't know. It was the most fun I've had on Twitter watching a game in a long time. So
yeah, when I saw the official men's basketball account getting in on the action too, it was like, okay, all right, we did it today. Today's a good day.
Coming up next, it's a big week. You've got the chosen one, Kim English and George Mason on Wednesday, February 2nd. I obviously say that with a lot of sarcasm. What can the Billiken fans who haven't checked out George Mason this year expect Wednesday evening at 6 p.m.?
So it really all comes down to Josh Oduro for them. He's
Okoro versus
Oduro. That's going to be really a lot for whoever is calling the game on Wednesday. Not Rammer. Rammer will handle that just fine. I don't worry about Earl and Rammer. But whoever we have on the TV broadcast. But yeah, he's just he's third in the conference in scoring, right after the other two guys we just talked about. Really dynamic player, kind of creates some mismatches. I think he's just going to be a lot to handle. Mason's definitely a much improved team. I think people are going a little overboard on them maybe after today's win. They are technically second in conference because they only have one loss, but they have only played 5 games. Most people by now have played 7 or 8 in conference. And Mason only played 1 game between the 21st of December and 17th of January. So they've got 5 A10 games that were postponed as opposed to, we had 3 and thought it was a lot. And I think they've only rescheduled 2 or 3 of those. So I don't kind of know what they look like if those, quote unquote games in hand play out. They're going to have a compressed schedule down the stretch here. And it's hard to stay. I don't know, when you're coming in the second half of the season and you're playing more games than anybody else. I don't know. I can't imagine they're going to stay in kind of the top 4 tier. But Mason's a much improved team from what we've seen in recent years. You added to the notes here that they've got Gaines and Cooper who both shoot over 40% from 3. They score a little over 70 points a game. And I think Schwartz is another guy you've got to watch out for. He scores almost 16 a game. He's he's a top 10 conference scorer too. So I guess they're not 100% all about Oduro. So they should be it'll be a tough matchup, but they're streaky. I think they're beatable.
Speaking of thinking they're beatable, Saturday, February 5th, Arch Baron Cup Leg 2. It crosses the Mississippi River this year. And we're looking to snap a 5-game losing streak in the series. It's been a frustrating couple years.
Yeah, it has. It really has, hasn't it? Especially because when they were at their best, those games were so close.
Yeah.
Both of the ones that season that they went 29-2 and then didn't get to play out March were really close games, and we felt like we were going to have a good shot against them up in the A10 tournament and never got our shot. But it's still frustrating. The three since then have not gone our way, and we covered heavily, obviously, that game in Dayton on the 11th, and we kind of know a little bit more about them now. But yeah, Saturday afternoon game at home. I really hope we get a good crowd for that one. I know, like you said, the crowd's kind of been punching above its weight. Only about half the seats filled, but it's been feeling like more than that, it seems like. And really hope we get a lot of good support for that one.
Yeah. I hate that, again, it's on a weekend here, but we had a weekday up there. I mean, it just is a storm to have them have more fans here than we could get up there.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Side note, well, it's not a side note, but recruiting note for Billiken fans to be aware of.
Yeah, actually, two. I only put one in the notes, but one just happened since then. So the first one is Drew Steffy, who's a 4-star 2023. So that'd be a junior in high school. He's a wing out of the Dallas area. He took his official visit to Texas Tech last weekend, and he quietly committed to the staff during the visit, and then announced it the other night, actually right before we tipped off with George Washington. SLU was in his top 5 along with Tech, and then Xavier, Colorado, and TCU. So we lost out on that one, but we've got a lot of other irons in the fire in the 2023 class, including some other 4-star players in Texas. Guys who he knows, who he's played with and against, both in high school and AAU. So there are some, Forte's doing a lot of work, man. I mean, we've really got a lot of traction in Texas and the St. Louis area, obviously. And so anyway, bummer to miss out on this kid, but that's all right. Onward and upward. And actually, Rob Martin, the senior point guard out of CBC, who's having a great year, honestly, put SLU in his top 3, along with Eastern Illinois and Indiana State, which is kind of an interesting grouping. Martin is one of these guys like Collins. He's small, and he's not as strong or as built as Collins. He's a little more wiry in his frame. He's a small guy, and I think if he were a couple inches bigger, he'd be a higher level recruit. Honestly, I think a lot of the guys in this class are kind of getting screwed by all the extra players in college basketball because of COVID too. A lot of guys who would have moved on are still hanging around, and that's really impacting those kind of second and third tier high school recruits. And I think he's kind of in that group as well. But anyway, Martin, I guess the question there is, as a guy like that, does he want to come to SLU where he's going to have to back up Collins for a couple of years, or does he want to go somewhere else and have a chance to play bigger minutes right away? So I think that's kind of what everybody needs to consider there, because you certainly don't want a local player to come here and not be happy with his situation if he wants to play right away. Because I mean, you look at their point guard, and if Collins is staying, I mean, that's 2 years, or we have our point guard set. So if a guy's comfortable coming and learning under him, then it's a good opportunity. But that's got to be what everybody wants. So Rob Martin, CBC, go see him if you can, and just keep an eye on his recruitment.
Let's go around the A10, shall we?
Let's do it.
Monday, January 24th. Mason beats St. Joe's 77-71. Tuesday, the 25th, Richmond beats Rhode Island 70-63. Rhode Island kind of choked this one away. You know what? Somebody said on Twitter that you're an idiot if you root for chaos in the league. I hate this league so much that I don't care anymore. I really don't. It does nothing for me. Emotionally, to see this league do well. I don't care. So I love chaos. I'm an agent of chaos in this one. I would have loved to see the next game go the opposite way, but Dayton struggled with Fordham, but ended up pulling away for a 7-point win. Wednesday, Mason beats Bonaventure 75-66. That's a little chaosy if you go by the preseason predictions. UMass beats LaSalle 77-71 in a bit of a pillow fight game. St. Joe's 72, Duquesne 61. VCU edges Davidson 70-68. And this is it's a joke now that when a A10 team gets ranked, they lose their next game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Number 25, Davidson immediately is going to drop from the rankings for that. VCU is obviously a respectable win. That was at Davidson though. So that's probably where that one is probably seen to be, a game you need to win.
Yes. Shocking, honestly. A team that doesn't score very well is the team to take down Davidson. A very stout defensive kind of plodding team.
70-68 is both way more than VCU scores and way more than they let up. So you could argue they almost played Davidson's game in that one.
Friday, January 28th, the lowest scoring game of the week. Dayton 53, Rhode Island 51. So Dayton avoids a bit of a disaster in that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they already had 4 disasters earlier in the season. Saturday, January 29th, Davidson 77, LaSalle 69. Davidson bounces back. Bonaventure 80, St. Joe 69. Nice win for Bonaventure. VCU 64, Richmond 62. Sunday on the 30th, GW 64, Fordham 55. Looked like Fordham might take this one today, but GW holds on for the win, and mayhem reigns supreme. George Mason 72, UMass 62. UMass hung with them for a little bit. UMass was out Fernandez in this one.
Yeah, it was only early that was close, because with like 7 or 8 minutes left in the game, Mason was up like 20. So UMass kind of pulled it. They made it look a little artificially close at the end. But yeah, I haven't seen Fernandez's status or how long he's going to be out.
Yeah, I think was it concussion? Is that what I saw?
I will look it up right now.
I think concussion protocol. So I mean, if it is concussion protocol, it's obviously maybe a couple games, unless you're Jeff Reed.
Right. Exactly. It is concussion protocol. So yeah, I don't know when he'll be back.
On the women's side of one more note on around the A10. The league is starting. You're starting to see have and have nots.
Yeah, that stratification this is about the point in the season where it's really happening. Richmond is the middle team. They're 4-4 and 7th. Everybody below them is under 500, and everybody above them is 2 or more games above 500. And that's what makes it kind of look like more of a dividing line, is because it would take a few results to get any of those teams to kind of swap above or below Richmond. So we'll see how things play out, but it's kind of becoming clear who the better teams are in the league.
On the women's side of things, an odd week for the women's basketball team. 2 very different results. The Billikens go to Richmond and they beat VCU, a team that's had their number for quite a while now. This was on Wednesday. 60-55 win at VCU. VCU hasn't been as good as they have in recent years, but it's certainly a solid win in this one.
Yeah, it really is. And VCU is a team that has played a really tough schedule this season. And I think a lot of people thought by the time that it gets to conference, because they've been so battle tested, they'll really rise. And instead, they've kind of just stayed 500. They came in, it was like 5-5 in the non-conference, and now they're 3-3 in conference. So maybe that'll change over the course of the year. But the fact that a battered, injury shortened SLU team goes in there and really leads the whole game is really surprising to me.
Yeah, it's I like some of the pieces on this team a lot. I mean, when they're on, McNeil, Bess, Harbison are awesome to watch. They have a high-powered scoring offense at the guard position, but when they're not scoring, it's a very it's a team that struggles.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And I mean, this was a team effort. McNeil has 15,
mhm.
Harbison 14, Best 10, Flowers 8, Warren 8. So they really spread it out, and Flowers grabbed 13 rebounds. So you kind of love to see that too. When as fun as it is to see Harbison score 36, it's nice to see other people kind of get in on the action.
Absolutely. Great defense in this one. One note, VCU 0 bench points, and they didn't shoot very well as well. They were like, I don't think they made a 3 in the first half. Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I think you're right. And then what did they shoot, like 30% for the game?
Yeah.
Something abysmal like that. It's just
It got a little dicey at the end. I'm not gonna lie. I think it got down to like 10 with like a minute to go, and I'm like, the way this one's trending, I don't know if we're gonna hold on.
yeah, I mean, SLU only wound up winning by 5 because
Yeah.
VCU outscored them by 10 in the fourth quarter. But yeah, VCU shoots 21% from 3, 39% on the game. They weren't great from the free throw line either. Only got there 5 times, made 3 of them. Wasn't their game. SLU, all credit to their defense. Played a nice game there, out rebounded them by a little bit. And yeah, came away with a really nice road win.
Sunday the 30th, today, the day we're recording this. So yesterday, when you're listening to it, 61-54 loss versus Richmond at home. This one I think can be summed up by saying it's a game where the Billikens would get within arm's length, and Richmond would Heisman pose them, and down Carleton. It was one of those games where they'd get within 2 points, and then Richmond would go on a little bit of a run.
Yeah. And it was one of those, they had a tough second quarter, and really, we talk about the VCU shooting game that they benefited from in the prior game. They were even worse in this one. SLU shoots 33% from the field. They're 22 of 66, and they only shoot 4 of 20% from 3. Just not their game. Harbison in particular, she had 13, but it took a lot of shots to get there. Flowers was 6 for 9 and ended with 13 points as well. McNeil had 15 in this one. And then Julia Martinez had 13 rebounds, actually the leading rebounder on the day. Martinez, I know Coach Stone said Martinez and Warren were both on minute restrictions. Martinez has since been lifted, and I think Warren was either lifted this game or she will be next game. So yeah, not their day, not good shooting the ball, and unfortunately just didn't have enough to come back either.
A little standings update for on the women's side. Dayton is obviously the class of the A10 this year, 16-3 overall, 7-0. Rhode Island 6-0, Fordham 6-2, UMass sitting at 4-3, along with LaSalle. Richmond and Duquesne are sitting at 4-4, VCU 3-3. So they're having a tougher season than normal. Davidson 3-4, SLU 2-3, not very good. They're sitting in the bottom half of the league currently with St. Joseph's, Bonaventure, Mason, and George Washington. Not much you can really say at this point. It's without MST, this is a completely different team.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And I know they thought they were a top 4 team coming into the year too. So that's really frustrating. The good news here for the conference, 2 undefeated teams so far, and they're 16-3 overall. I think there's a few teams that kind of have a case, and we'll kind of see how the net ratings and everything evolves over the course of the year. But, coming into, I know coming into conference, we kind of gave a high level overview of where everybody stood and kind of pointed out 5 or so teams that could get an at-large bid if they kind of play out right. And it looks like there's 2 or 3 of those that still might be on track. So again, we'll keep an eye on it, but love to see this be a multi-bid league this year.
Yeah, and it looks like the 2 transfers are not going to end up playing this year. I mean, I can't see them ending. I just can't. I don't know I don't have any inside information, but it's just how it looks.
It's getting late now.
Yeah.
And really it's, the only use would be to have something resembling a full roster for the A10 tournament if you think you really got a shot to win the tournament. But stranger things have obviously happened. I just think 4 in 4 days would be a really tough ask for this group.
Speaking of getting late, it is getting late tonight. Run us down swimming and diving real quick.
Yeah, sure. Well, women's basketball this week
sorry.
They're at Rhode Island, who's 6-0, and then they're at UMass on Saturday, the 5th. UMass is 4-3. So that's a really tough road swing up to the Northeast. So I don't think they're going to be turning things around quite yet. Swimming and diving had their senior meet on Saturday, the 29th, against Maryville at home. Both the men and women won handily. Both teams won first place finishes in every event. They were fantastic. A10 meet is February 16th and 19th in Geneva, Ohio, which is kind of a weird location because there's not an A10 school there. But I think that's where the Spire Institute is, which is kind of like the IMG of Northeastern Ohio. So that's where the A10 meet's going to be. And then why don't you cover men's tennis?
Sure. Funny that the neutral ground is in Geneva.
That had not occurred to me. Being an Ohioan, I guess I didn't think of it that way.
That's a Swiss joke for all you.
Yeah, I get that. That's good.
No, I was just, I figure our listeners, some of them may, not be up on their.
Yeah, I some of my friends listen to this and they're not very bright, so that's for you guys.
I mean, I'm not very bright either, so I can understand. Men's tennis, 4-2 win over Oral Roberts on Sunday, January 23rd. Neutral site in Wichita. Figure that one out. They won 2 of 3 doubles matches to take the doubles point, then went 4 of 6 in the singles matches, and they took 3 more points. You know what? I really don't know. I knew high school tennis because I played it. But at that point we weren't playing. They were playing 7 matches, 4 singles, 3 doubles. And I think they've changed it since then. So people could double up. Yeah. Ryota Fukushima, Adam Behan, Pavel Badalance, and Jonathan Sadowski all won on the single side. 1-1 to start the season. Next up Saturday, February 5th at Purdue. Sorry to those 4 gentlemen that I butchered all of their names.
Women's tennis, they won 4-3 over Oral Roberts, which was also in Wichita. Both sides played there on the 23rd. Came back from a 3-1 deficit and won the final 3 singles matches. Mariana Perez, Lucia Faj, Maya Spencer, and Jessica Steffen all won. And then they lost, unfortunately, 4-3 at Valpo on the 29th, kind of the opposite of what happened last time. They won the first 2 singles matches and then went on to drop 3 of the next 4. So coming even out of singles, they lose 2 out of 3 doubles matches, and Valpo claims the overall victory. Elizabeth Mintusova, Mariana Perez, and Lizzie Barlow all won their singles matches. And then on the 30th Sunday, they were swept 4-0 by Purdue at Purdue. Not a whole lot to cover there. They were just overwhelmed. Purdue actually has a ranked player. She's like number 111. And SLU is now 1-3 on the season. And next up, the women will face UMSL on Friday, the 4th of February.
Softball. They released their schedule to go along with baseball. And you're gonna see a similar theme with softball as baseball. They'll face 6 NCAA tournament teams, 6 RPI top 50, 3 more RPI top 100 based on last year's results. Their season will kick off. I should say first pitch for the season starts February 11th through the 13th. Southern Miss's Black and Gold Invitational, which will feature Samford and North Alabama. I do love softball because they'll play like 3 games in a day. That's so cool.
Right. It is.
Softball might be like, I will die on the hill that softball is a more television friendly sport than baseball.
I think there's something to that. Yeah.
I mean, how much, like, honestly, watching the Women's College World Series is more enjoyable to me than the Men's College World Series because those games go forever. I can watch an hour and a half of softball and the game's over. Move on
It's
to
the
the next
same.
one. Give
It's
me
the same
something
with tennis too. The pro tennis. I think the women's game is usually more watchable. Um,
It's kind of like
it's shorter. It's
women's
more,
volleyball. We'll go women's volleyball.
yeah,
Women's volleyball because it's not as athletic. It's women's volleyball is kind of like the college basketball to men's volleyball's pro basketball, or like perfection happens too often. Like men's volleyball there are not many rallies because of the power involved.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Whereas you see much more of the actual
yes,
skill of the game.
yes.
Yeah.
Michelle Conway Classic at Central Arkansas later in February. That'll also have UMKC and Omaha. The Ole Miss Classic early March. Samford again, along with Western Kentucky. That would be a fun little trip. Ole Miss has beautiful baseball, softball facilities and is really nice in March.
And it's not far from St. Louis either.
No, it's not. First home game will be March 8th versus Northern Kentucky. The Norse, do they go by Norse women? Is that
It's just Norse. It used to be Norsemen and they just cut it to Norse.
God bless them. First A10 game, or as they say in Kentucky, bless your heart. First A10 game is March 12th at Fordham. In addition to the A10 schedule, other home games will include South Dakota, Iowa, Western Illinois, UMKC, SIUE, Louisiana, and they will play on the road at Mizzou, SIUC, and Missouri State. I'm not seeing SEMO here. Usually they're on the schedule, but that they seem to be absent this year.
Yeah, I didn't see him this year, unless it was just an oversight, and I'll double check right now. But no, I think this is a really good schedule, actually. We heard a little bit of the baseball team's philosophy. Coach Hendrickson telling us, he doesn't know what the next few months are going to look like, still playing in a pandemic or what's left of it. So he gave himself a lot of bus trips and a lot of flexibility and what he thought was a pretty solid schedule. And I think the women kind of took the same philosophy here with softball, playing in Mississippi and Arkansas early in the year. And then, outside of the A10 schedule, you've got games in places like Springfield and Carbondale and Columbia, a lot of bus trips, but a lot of good competition at the same time. So it's a nice schedule. And I think they're going to be a better team than they were last season.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I like to see our teams win in anything. And I don't like to see them lose. I think I've made that abundantly clear. By the way, go check out our Twitter account. Check out the little thread we did on baseball, softball. The Reddit thread is really cool. They show all the stadiums around the country. A really cool discussion on poor, really, really bad baseball stadiums. I guess we can always look at Quinnipiac's field. It's literally Forest Park. So I guess we can look at that when we start to complain. But yeah, go check it out and go check out our interview with Darren Hendrickson. It's awesome. I loved that interview. I love talking to Hendo. He's such a genuine guy, such a hard worker, and a great coach.
Yeah, definitely check that out. That was a fun interview. And we've got more stuff in the works.
Yeah, we're going to celebrate our 1 year anniversary coming up.
That's right. Our 1 year anniversary. What is that? Paper anniversary?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to get you like a legal pad with a custom Midtown Madness letterhead.
Yeah, it's a nice one because we can send things in the mail, and it's easy to send paper.
Their flat bill snapback hat is the 1 year anniversary. Worn backwards, of course.
Right.
That wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP. We so much appreciate any and all suggestions you might have for the show. So please tweet at us anything you got. Make sure you're subscribing to our show on all the platforms. And if you haven't left us a review or a rating, don't be afraid to drop us 5 stars and leave us a review. As always, go Bills.
Go Bills.